Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast. We are going to be diving into an important topic about growing your book of business and making more money. How often have you found it just easy to get busy and get distracted with activities that are not actually tied to making more money? That is what we're going to be talking about in this episode. Rick Gregson is going to kick us off on this important topic. Here we go.
Are you a commercial insurance producer struggling to stand out from the competition? Do you find it challenging to grow your book of business and create a fulfilling career? If so, then welcome to the Preeminent Producer Podcast. Each week, we'll be tackling important topics, sharing proven strategies and insights from successful producers that are in the trenches and have traveled the journey to becoming a preeminent producer. You'll discover what it really takes to become preeminent and build your book of business in a way that isn't being taught anywhere else. Our hosts are experts in the field and have built thriving businesses by becoming the most trusted advisor to their clients. Welcome to your journey to becoming a preeminent producer. Let's dive in.
You know, one of the things that I want to have a conversation, all of us coaches want to have a conversation about, is money-making activities. I mean, it may sound kind of weird, like, well, yeah, that's why we're in this business, to make money, but there are certain things, several things that can get in our way. And as we say at the start of all of these podcasts, or most of them, if we remember to say them, kind of, is, hey, listen, there's no do and master. You know, a lot of these things you're going to hear us say, you know to build a pipeline, you know that you need to do money-making activities. And you probably do a number of these things right now. You probably do these kind of things. But the preeminent producer, which this is all about, in which we're trying to get you to strive to be, masters these things. And do they really, really master them? Oh, maybe not, but they come as close to mastery as they possibly can. So I thought we'd talk today about money-making activities, how to do them, what could kind of get in your way, and how you could move towards mastery of these things. So let me kind of do some stuff. If you're a brand new producer, and I remember back to about 7,000 years ago when I was a brand new producer, one of the things I wanted to be was busy. You know, it feels good to be busy. You'd sit at your desk. You can't make phone calls for 8 solid hours. You can't just go out and prospect forever, or you just are dead. Yet I'm sitting around the office with these older guys who were making a lot of money, who were busy doing stuff. They were writing new accounts. And I looked at them and I thought, wow, I want to be busy too, which of course you do. And if I can't be busy doing things like prospecting all of the time, then I get sucked into something that can really stay with you for a very long time, and that is service. Preeminent producers do not do service. And I'll get to a little bit more about how I handle that in my own book of business. You can hide in service, because if you're afraid to go out and produce, if you haven't decided to make this a career, not a job, then you can hide in service. I'm really too busy. I'm taking an auto change here. I'm helping someone with a claim. And again, you'll hear me talk about that later by going, wow, this guy probably goes out to his clients and says, I'm going to give you all kinds of great service, and he's not giving them great service. And the answer is, no, I'm not. My team is, but I'm not. I need to be involved in money-making activities. So I think that's it. I think this starts with, and the reason it's so important, it starts with goal setting. It says, okay, how much money do I want to make? Because in this industry, you can give yourself a raise at any time by working harder or smarter. But to do that, you have to control the one diminishing asset that you have, and that's time. I mean, we're all constricted by time. So let's kind of talk a little about, I'll just kind of give you my idea of what I do. You can kind of listen to it and go, I get that. And for some of you, your agency may not support this yet. If you're a young producer, your agency may not be structured. When I revamped an agency to do this kind of stuff, it was easy because I owned the agency. But not all owners may catch on to this. So you young producers may have to listen to this, take good notes. You may have to do a sales job on the principle of your agency to say, hey, listen, you hired me to sell insurance. This is what I need to do. I need to sell insurance and not being involved. So let me kind of run you by what I do on when I sign up a new account. So I go out, we've taken this thing over on an agent of record letter or a BOR, which is what we want to do. So then I have a new client, and I say to that client at the time, we write them, hey, listen, we're delighted to have you here, yada, yada, yada. I do a service handoff. I say to the client, listen, I would like to introduce you to, and I have them there in person, either Dee or Laura or Josh on my team, 3 very talented account executives. And I would say to them, listen, Matt, on your account, I'm assigning Dee Alfson to be the account executive on your account. You know, sometimes I'm out in the field, I might be hard to reach. Dee is a CIC. She is a licensed insurance agent. She's an insurance professional. So for all of those things that you need, and you need right away, auto changes, claims, anything of that sort, Dee is going to be your contact. Now, Dee may have a counterpart at their company. If they're a large company, I want to make sure Dee has a counterpart with who she has a relationship with. Every now and then I will see Dee or Laura or someone walk by the door and say, hey, where are you going? Well, I'm going out to see my account and visit with their counterpart. I love that. So anyway, so you might say, Gregson, so what do? Are you the guy then that just writes the account, you abandon them and you show up 2 days before renewal? I wish I could, because basically I'm a really, really lazy guy, but that doesn't work. I'm also money motivated and I want to make money doing this. So here's what I do. They introduce themselves. They become the day-to-day broker for that account. I meet with my clients quarterly, religiously, quarterly. These are not these are not solely relationship buildings. We don't go out and have a beer together. This is a formal meeting with the client and their management team, where we talk about claims during the time, agency services, usefulness. In other words, we provide agency services. Are they using those kind of things? We do an audit check. You estimated your gross sales are going to be $10 million. We're in the first quarter. Where do you see that? Do we need to make some adjustments? We go over a report card for the insurance carrier. We go over a report card for the insurance agency. And we do all of that work every quarter. Those meetings, we always learn something in those meetings. Hey, did we tell you we sold 10 of our vehicles? Oh, matter of fact, you didn't. Did we tell you blah, blah, blah? And then the big thing is when they say to you, hey, we're thinking about doing something, you move from a vendor to a trusted advisor. We're thinking about this. What do you think about that? And they'll start telling you that in advance. So I do the first meeting, I do a quarterly meeting, I do a midterm review, I do a pre-renewal meeting, and that's it. So to borrow terms from a guy that I used to know and really enjoys, but still enjoy, I do takeoff, landings, and in-flight emergencies. A takeoff is writing the business, a landing is renewing the business. An in-flight emergency is anything that jeopardizes that account staying with us for the rest of the year. So I do see my folks quarterly, and it's a very, very important meeting. At that meeting, I also say, hey, listen, if there's something that happens with the insurance company or my agency, by the way, everybody that's listening to this, it is your agency. You don't go out and say, I'm a producer. It is in my agency, we do this and this and this. So in my agency, if you're ever disappointed by the insurance company, they're not responding to you or something on my team, would you please let me know? Because I'll do everything I can to fix it. So I never get a call about a cert. I never get a call about a claim. I never get a call about anything really, other than something that might jeopardize our relationship. Now, in addition to that, I meet with my team every Monday morning and every Friday morning. They brief me on, Monday morning is, we're getting ready to play the game. What's going to go on with me this week that I need support from them? What could happen this week that they need some support with me? We meet again on Friday. What happened this week? Rick, did anything happen that you need to know about with these accounts? So if something major does happen, those are 2 opportunities for us to get together and talk. The other thing, the reason they love it, I never stroll down the hall and say, and interrupt them, or almost never. We take care of our business Monday mornings, Friday morning, and our team meeting. And it gets that interruption thing down, which they love. They hate me interrupting them, and I don't blame them. They're in a workflow. So that's what you do. I mean, you really have to guard against getting sucked into service. You really have to guard against having people pull you in a different direction. You really need to understand the value of your time. And if you're going to become preeminent, you need to do these things. Final thing you need to do, really, and not final, we could go on, and I can go on for hours on this thing, is you need to own your calendar. You need to really put things on your calendar, you new producers especially. You need to block off time to prospect. You need to block off time to make phone calls. You need to rehearse those phone calls. Christian has done a really great job about low-risk practices or practices various things. And you need to own your calendar so you've got time to do those things, and you do those things during that allotted time. As producers, it's really easy for us to get sidetracked. We're social animals. We work in a social environment with other flaky insurance agents who want to talk to us and have a cup of coffee with us. And say, hey, Rick, what are you doing this weekend? Hey, I'm drinking too much, whatever. So that's the kind of thing. Again, let me go back to kind of how I started. All of this stuff that you've heard me say, you may say, well, yeah, I kind of know that. And I kind of do that stuff. But preeminence in any form or fashion means you master the stuff. And if you kind of think about this, and then I'll quiet down here in some other areas, your doctor, he doesn't take your blood pressure. He doesn't draw your blood. That's done by a physician's assistant or a nurse. Lawyers, you may have a law clerk taking some information before you go into the hallowed halls to see your attorney. My stockbroker, I talk with him every now and then, but I certainly talk to his assistant a whole lot more. And those are the kind of things, just think of yourself about that. Think of yourself also as somebody that if you build for your time, what would you build? I mean, we work 40 hours a week for, let's say, 50 weeks a year. I think that's 2,000 hours. If your book of business is, you guys do the math, and don't do it on your commission, do it on your gross revenue. Okay, so money-making activities is where you need to live. And you need to ask yourself as you're sitting at your desk, that is this something that I'm doing right now that will bring revenue in for me and for my agency? And if it's not, stop and go do something that will. There you go.
Great. Rick, that's beautiful stuff. Yeah, there's a lot there. And just a couple things that come to mind real quick from me. One, if one of the measures of becoming a preeminent producer is, and we've talked about this before, is to try to get our books up to $1 million. Okay. Not a premium, of course, revenue, no. Of course, goes without saying. You know what? It's absolutely, you're never going to get there if you don't master your time. And yes, I think a producer's personality, you touched on that a moment ago, we're social creatures. There's another aspect, and that can work against us in terms of time management. Another aspect of, I believe a good producer is that we really want to take care of our clients. We want to know that they're in the best situation. That's what insurance is all about, or should be all about. And therefore, it can get tempting to want to help them with stuff that's not a money-making activity, right?
Yes.
What I typically tell a new client of mine when they're not used to working with me or working with my account manager is, so they, I write a new account. The next day they need a certificate. They're probably going to call me just initially, right? And I explain to them, and it's truthful. I tell them, look, you don't want me involved. I'm going to mess this whole thing up, but Kirsten over here, or Denise, they do this all day long. They're experts, and, and so you kind of make the handoff. And then if that in turn leaves time to actually visit those clients 4 times a year, like you're doing, now that's time well spent.
Yeah, it is. I'm terrible at it. If Christian would call me, if he was a client and he buys a new car, I'd say, wow, what color is it? How fast does it go? I'd ask him all those things, and then I would hand it off to one of the service people, and they say, did you get the VIN on that? Is there a mortgagee or a leasing company on? Yeah. Oh, no, but it's red and it goes really fast. I mean, we're producers. We're not typically those detailed persons. And the people, thank God, on my team are really very detailed. they know what to get, and they're much more efficient. They don't want me involved in that transaction.
Yeah, we've seen how you've issued certificates, Rick. A certificate is not a napkin with, my name on it. But anyway,
That's a binder.
Oh, a binder. You do that too? See, there you
Cocktail
go.
napkin binder. That we're going back many years.
There you go. No, I think you guys. Again, I love this podcast because we could talk and be very open about what it is that we do, and I think that it really starts at the beginning and setting the stage at that relationship, as Matt just said at the beginning. We make sure, and I'm sure you guys do too, that a new client has a list of names, has a list of contact numbers, direct line numbers, emails, and not only who the people are, but what they do. We actually give a team rundown to our new clients so that they know who to call. Now, having said that, yeah, I'll get the call. Hey, I bought this new vehicle. And just like Rick says, I may ask more about the vehicle than it's needed to add it. But I do my best thinking constantly, is this money producing? Is this of value to the client and to me? And if you just keep repeating that in your head, you come to a very quick realization that that's not probably money generating or income revenue generating. So I do my best to quickly say, you know what, so-and-so here can help you better than I can. Let me just patch you through to them. Or if it's in an email, because many times I get emails from clients saying, I just bought this, great, we'll add it. So-and-so, on your team will take care of it. I copy in that person in the email. Just do all you can to pass off a lot of that processing work so that you have time to make the calls, because that's what you do. And we talk about being preeminent, Rick, and I love your definition of it because it's true, mastering it. And the only way you really master something is through repetition. So, you got to tell yourself this stuff internally. You have to practice it. Just do it enough. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And it will become just rote and a normal part of your process. I think that there's a fear many times that my client's going to take it as I don't care. And that is a myth that I hope the listeners forget about, because it is truly a myth. They do. It shows even more that you care more if you can get them to the right person who can take care of it and is not going to talk about how fast their car goes.
Yeah, Christian, I think when I started my quarterly meetings years and years ago, I was afraid that my clients were just saying, he's just going to come out here and sell insurance to us. Mm-hmm. And I had somebody else in the agency, and I would recommend this, set those meetings up for you. And I remember a few of my clients said, oh, you're too important now to set up your own meetings. And of course, me being me, I would say, yes, I am. You know me, I'm a very important guy. I don't have time for this trivial stuff. And they would normally laugh. No, my time is spent here with you. And I think that's really important. What's going through my head, though, if I'm a young producer, I'm sitting here going, yeah, that's great. But it really does take a revamping of an agency. If you're not set up with service teams, and it doesn't have to be dedicated, maybe somebody does A through D and somebody does whatever. I don't particularly like that. I like working with the same three people on my team all the time. And if you're not set up for that, your agency may not have evolved to that yet, either through size or management style. I can see me as a young producer. When I first got to town, I didn't have I'd have no book of business, going into my boss at the time and saying, hey, I got an idea. You need to revamp the agency and support me and all this kind of stuff. And he's going to, hey, get out of here. You're just lucky to have a job. And I probably was lucky to have a job. When I started my own agency, it took me a few years to get to the position we can do this. So young producers, what you might want to do is say, hey, boss, could you listen to this podcast for a few minutes? Mm-hmm. It might in their agency require a little bit different role happening. You've got to set up teams. You've got to have, and when you set up a team, the biggest thing you have to do is define the roles for each team member so they know exactly what their rules, their responsibility are, and they're not overstepping. And that's really important. So if we could get this to an agency principal who says, I want to go further. I want to be preeminent agency. I want to drive the agency into preeminence.
Yeah.
This would be something to take a look at your producers. And are you encouraging them to money-making activities only? And are there things in the agency that you could do that takes that service off them and puts them out in the field?
Rick, to that very last point that you made, I did a little thinking, and
always a dangerous thing. Always a dangerous
here we
thing.
go.
It is. I come up with a lot of ideas, and a few of them actually stick. But as I'm fond of saying, it's valuable to take a step back once in a while and think about what we're doing. So, thinking about this subject and thinking about the time, and this actually gets back around to maybe perhaps convincing a principal whose agency isn't structured this way to restructure. And I thought, okay, is it reasonable if I'm a producer and I'm not being completely efficient? I'm not working solely on money-making activities. In other words, I do get dragged into helping with a claim or doing stuff. Is it reasonable to assume that if I really figured that out, restructured, spun most of the servicing off to my account managers, could I find an extra 2 hours a day? I don't think that's unreasonable if we really evaluate it. I'll tell you one thing that I did earlier this year or last year is I started working more and more out of my home office, my house. Okay. And because of the commute that I had, that gave me instantly an extra hour a day.
Yeah.
Plus, I get started earlier now, much earlier. It just, so I think a lot of us could probably find an extra 2 hours a day if we were disciplined. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we were motivated to. So then I thought, okay, well, and if I spent those 2 hours a day in money-making activities, what could happen? And guys, it's crazy. The bottom line is an extra 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, based on a 40-hour work week, you get almost 3 more months a year of money-making activities.
Wow.
And
wow.
I know it's crazy when you do the math. I was shocked. I redid it 3 times to make sure I was right. So to that point about if you are a producer in a smaller agency or an agency that's just, and somehow you're getting bogged down in those non-money making activities, I think that's a reasonable approach to the agency principal or principals to say, look, now extrapolate that over the entire sales force here. And this is something that should be seriously looked at.
Yeah. And there's another suggestion that I have is for the producers, again, in smaller shops, startups, or even more established agencies, and I hate to even say this, but most carriers have service centers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can absolutely write the business and have, when the client calls, have them shifted to the service center. Again, it's all in how you deliver that. And I know you're going to give up some points of commission, but trust me, the commission points that you give up are so minor compared to the fact of how long it takes to make a policy change that you won't have to do, or your team. We're doing more and more, we're placing more and more clients into service centers. I took a very slow approach to that because I didn't trust that anyone could do it as good as we could. But nonetheless, they've improved, and the service centers, it's a legitimate way to have someone else do the work to allow the producer to focus on new business generation.
Yeah, Christian, that's a really, really good point. And it brings me to another of my favorite topics. I have a bunch of favorite topics. You guys are probably noticed. Minimum account size. You need to set a minimum account size. You will burn up, and these numbers are revenue numbers, not premium numbers. You will burn up as much time on a $1,000 revenue account as you will a $10,000 revenue account.
Or more.
Or more, because
those small ones.
Those small guys and gals are not sophisticated buyers. They are small. They're wearing many hats. A larger client, you might be dealing with a CFO who knows the business. Set up a minimum account size that you won't work on anymore. And it could be $10,000 of revenue and below. I don't do anything less than $10,000. You as a new producer might be $500 and below. It might be $1,000. And then every year you move that up and you get rid of the bottom 10% of your clients. What? Get rid of clients? Yes. As your book gets bigger and bigger, you want fewer, larger clients. Get, as Christian just said, get those folks in service centers. They are time killers. Establish a minimum account size, move it up every year, and trade those little accounts back down to somebody else. Make them house accounts. Don't get caught up in them. Because if you're really going to be a preeminent producer, if you're going to hit your goals, then figure out your minimum account size and stick to it.
And then over service your top 20. 80-20 is a great rule.
Yep.
Over service your top 20. Go out and have those minimum quarterly meetings with them. They always generate more revenue. I mean, and it might not be just adding, additional excess layers or what have you. It could be actually having that conversation with that CFO and saying, by the way, we'd love to take the same concepts of how we've handled your business and talk to you about your own protection of your own assets. Because let's face it, you're key to this company. They probably never have had a conversation from their personal lines insurance agent like that, right. Because most personal lines, I think it's all pretty much the same with few exceptions. You write a policy, it goes in the books, maybe when it comes around for renewal, you might be talking to them, but there's not that. And that's something I'll say to listeners that I have wanted to really tackle and I haven't. And I kick myself because I want to be able to have a plan in place that we are really going after those business owners, those top tier directors and officers, and trying to develop a portfolio of personal insurance services for them. For two reasons. Number one, it solidifies that commercial relationship. But number two, you talk about high retention rates. I mean, personal lines is super high.
Oh yeah.
Super high.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess I'm assuming something for the listeners out there that are producers, that in your agency, you're compensated something for bringing in a personal lines account. In our agency, we pay commission the first year. We pay a commission bonus on that. And it's not, it doesn't happen every year. It's just that first year. But again, I hate to say it, it's free money, but on the back end, it really does secure that commercial relationship.
Well,
I got a question for you guys real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Matt. I'm curious though. All right, guys, we're going to stop right there. Yes, I am getting into another question, so we are going to continue this conversation in part 2. But for this part 1, I hope you got a lot out of it. This is an important topic. If you truly want to become preeminent, you got to focus on growing the book of business, and there's a way to do it. So stay tuned for part 2 as we dive into the topic of identifying what is those money-making activities, and the coaches will continue to bring great insight. If you'd like more information on what we do inside of our Preeminent Producer programs, be sure to visit us at thepreeminentproducer.com. We'll see you in the next podcast.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast.